Hello everybody, welcome to Oudeberg Permaculture Farm on a beautiful spring day. It's nice and warm. Our nights are still very cold and we have frost sometimes in the morning, so a lot of the system is in dormancy. So I think what we're going to do is start the season off by making a short video on our chicken systems here. So we'll have a look at chickens themselves and the different ways we use them on this farm and the systems we have to make the best use of the characteristics, needs and outputs of the chickens. Chickens are the most common animal used in permaculture systems, and they have a multiple range of uses. They provide us with eggs, and they provide meat, they provide offspring, and I think most importantly they provide the action of scratching and eating and pooing in whatever space they put, and they are amazing soil conditioners. So they dig in there and they turn the soil over and they find snail eggs and insect larvae, and they eat seeds, and they poo whatever you feed them back into the ground, and they work it in, and they create a very, very healthy soil that's extremely high in nitrogen. And for certain aspects of the permaculture, like food forests and vegetable gardens and under fruit trees, they're the ideal animal. And because they're very small, they also subject to a range of different predators, and that'll depend where you are. So out here our biggest challenges are with wildcats and mongoose and genet, and occasionally with the smaller chickens, birds of prey. So they need to be protected. They certainly can't be left to wander around. They won't last very long, and when they're unmanaged, they can cause a lot of trouble by virtue of the scratching pattern that they have. And they don't have a very long lifespan. They tend to make a racket. The hens will cackle after they lay eggs. Roosters are crowing all day. So they're not the sort of animal you want to have right next to your house either, because it's not very peaceful. But other than that, chickens are great. They're interesting to watch, and they're very easy to keep, and they breed prolifically if you put them in the right situation. And you know, the situation for chickens is very simple. They need to be protected, they need to have room to move around and scratch, they need clean water to drink, and they need grain and a wide variety of different greens and scraps, and they process them very well. At night they need to be perched off the ground, and they need to be protected from the weather. And so there are different systems where we can provide that for them from the system itself. The gardens, the permaculture system can provide a range of inputs into the chicken system, and the chicken system itself can provide a range of outputs into the permaculture system. So we create an integrated design where we can use the best of the chickens to support a wide range of functions in the permaculture system, from pest control to soil fertility to recycling of garden waste. And so, you know, the list is long. And of course there are a huge range of chicken breeds, and you know, here we tend to focus on specific characteristics in chicken breeds. So our personal choice for chicken breeds is a mixed chicken. We're not really breeding chickens for meat. What we tend to do is we slaughter the excess roosters that we don't need, because in any breeding program you're going to have at least a 50% male output, and so when they get to size we select the ones that have the characteristics we need for further breeding, and then the others are slaughtered or given to our staff to eat. So this is a little flock of chickens that we use specifically for breeding. The hens are good broody hens and they lay well, and they at least a year old, and we select our prime rooster. So there's a bit of everything in here. There's a little bit of leghorn, there's Borshfelder, there's a bit of Australorp, there's a bit of bald neck, and we tend to find that mixed breed chickens are more resilient, and we go for the small bodied egg laying chicken over the big bodied broiler, because we don't eat chicken ourselves. We use the eggs, and they're very efficient at converting food into eggs rather than body weight. They're good scratchers, they don't get diseased, and they don't have an issue with mites on their legs. So there's a whole range of selection criteria that we use in our breeding program, and I'm always on the lookout for something new and interesting which we try out. So at the moment we have about, I can't tell you offhand, but in the region of 30 to 35 chickens on the farm, and that's enough for our purposes at the moment. So what we're going to do now is just have a look at the different systems that we have and how we integrate those systems with the different functions of the farm. So the first system that we're going to look at is the center of our chicken setup on the farm, and that is the chicken rotation yard. It's a permanent structure, so the rest of our chickens are all in mobile systems, but this is a permanent structure, and it forms the core of our breeding pattern. And what it basically consists of as an infrastructure is a central straw yard. And in the straw yard we throw all our mulch that we generate on the farm. This is lucerne that we baled. We throw it in here, and they scratch through it and they eat any snail eggs or seeds or whatever else in there, and they poo into it, and so they actually add fertility. And then once they've worked through it, we throw it into the garden. And so this straw yard's protected. It's got chicken mesh on the bottom so that the little baby chicks, when they breed here, it can't get out, and it's the primary breeding system. So all our broody chickens and those that are good mothers, they come in here, and we keep them here for the breeding season, which is spring to midsummer. And what we have is a hen house with perches, and then we have some laying boxes on the side where the chickens can brood and lay their eggs. And they poo underneath the perches, and we come and we extract this every few days, and we put it aside for compost making. And we can access the laying boxes from the back here. You can see there's some eggs from today. And once they start sitting, we leave them. And then there's this underneath the little chicken house, there's a sheltered area, so if it gets really hot they can go under there. And chickens always like to have a place to go where they're protected from potential threats from above. And these big pear trees here, when they put leaf on later in spring, they provide shade. And what's nice, they lose their leaves over winter, so they let the sun in. And then either side of the straw yard we have two small production systems. So they're busy with this now. So this is a small garden. Over winter we produced vegetables here, and we harvested, and the chickens are now cleaning up and adding fertility to the soil. And this side has already been prepared, and so we've planted this up with lima beans on the fence lines. We've got potatoes in the one bed, and we still have to plant this one here, but it's very, very productive, because the only work we have to do is after the chickens have been through is plant and irrigate, and up everything comes. There's a bit of weeding, but generally the fertility is so high, the productivity is off the scale. And so what will happen is we're going to give them another 2 or so weeks to finish off over here, and then we will prepare the soil by loosening it up with a fork, form the beds, and then we will plant. And then the chickens will be confined into the straw yard. And because the system's integrated into the vegetable production system of the farm, there's always stuff to throw over the top for the chickens in here, so they get plenty of food when we weed the gardens and we find snails or anything else, little worms or caterpillars. They go into the straw yard and they're kept nice and healthy, and they lay well. And then running down the northern side of the chicken run is a small food forest, not really visible at the moment because the leaves are off the trees, and it's a variety of deciduous fruit trees sitting in pans with a swale above it. And we use electric chicken netting on the farm, and so what we did about 2 weeks ago, we had the chicken netting set up off the front of the system and incorporating this food forest, and we had them running around in here, scratching under the trees and eating any fruit fly larvae, whatever, under the trees, cleaning up, getting rid of any potential pests. So now for the summer the area is nicely prepped, and they've dunged and manured under the trees, so the trees have got their summer fertilization, and all we have to do is come and shape up a bit and mulch with this is actually chipped olive prunings, because we did a lot of pruning on our olives. So the chickens are then taken out of here when needed and put into mobile units. And so we're going to have a look at some of our mobile units and how they are designed and how they function. So here we are in the main crop garden, and we've spent the last 2 months preparing the soils with chicken tractors more than anything else, and it's ready for planting up now for the summer production. And so we will at the end of summer start clearing out all the older vegetables, and we'll bring the chickens in here in the classic A-frame chicken tractor. And we've designed the garden beds so that they fit the A-frame tractor, and we plonk the A-frame tractor on top, and the chickens get to work. They dig up and eat any seeds that are there. They eat a lot of snail eggs, which is great. Any pest eggs, whatever insects are in there get eaten and transformed into chicken poo. And when they're finished, we come in with a fork, loosen up, and we mulch, and it's ready to go. So here we have the A-frame chicken tractor. We've got lots of these. At the moment there's 2 of them running, but we have about 6 of them, and so a month ago this place was full of them, and now it's just this bed that has to be prepared. And it's a very simple structure. It's 3 meters long and 1.2 meters wide enough for the beds. It's got a corrugated iron roof on the back. It's got shade netting to provide a cool place for them, and it's just made out of what we call droppers. They thin eucalyptus poles. You can get them at the local agricultural supply store, and everything the chickens need is in here. It's a temporary abode for them. There's a perch at the back, and there's a laying box which is made out of a recycled oil drum, and you can see there's some eggs in there, and it's ideally sized for about 4 chickens. So we've got a rooster and 3 hens, and they'll spend about 2 weeks in one place before we move them on. And so once their job is done here, they will go back into either the breeding pen if they're part of the breeding flock, or they'll go into other systems where we hold chickens. There's some handles on the front and the back so we can pick it up and move it very easily, and it just moves along. So it's actually come from over there and it's moved back here, and we've got to have a fine resolution chicken wire so that nothing can get in and eat them. And there's a little bit of wire overlap at the bottom, so in some places we can put rocks or stones or logs down to stop them digging out underneath or stop things digging in. And then a bit of shade cloth to protect them from the sun, and you can see they're really going for it. And then every now and then we bring mulch and we throw it in here, and they, you know, this had a thick bedding of mulch quite recently and they've worked it in completely. We throw snails in, weeds in, and they just get continually fed when we're working in the garden, and they lay lots of eggs. And so this is the simplest and cheapest way to keep chickens, and as long as it keeps moving, they're happy. And if you leave them in one place for too long, you can over nitrogenize the soil. So yeah, this is the easy, cheap way to get chickens going on your farm or on your plot. And you can always tell if chickens are happy because they lay eggs. And so we've got a variety of different sized tractors for different garden dynamics and garden spatial arrangements, and it works extremely well. So here we have a very big chicken tractor. This is the biggest one on the farm, and it's used more for food forests, and we put it out on pasture. It takes 4 people to move it. The design is the same as the smaller tractor, it's just for far more chickens. Here we can quite comfortably put 10 chickens. At the moment it just has 2 roosters in it, and these roosters are going to be slaughtered. So we've decided they're not what we want for breeding, so we've separated them out. But where this particular structure comes in really useful is for the breeding season. And so when we have hatching of a lot of young chicks, we'll actually take them and their moms and put them in here, because they're very protected in here, and we can move this around, and they can get to a decent size before we move them into the other tractors. But also occasionally what happens is we buy in chickens from other breeders, so we get them as day-old chicks, and we don't have any incubation facilities here. We off-grid, so we don't have like high ampage electricity to run high HID lights and things. So we have this little mobile system that works extremely well. So we take the day-olds and we pop them in here, and so there's an area where they go in at night to roost or to sleep, and then there's a door we open every day to let them out. So we'll put a thick layer of wood shavings down there, and then there's actually a chain on this door that we hook up onto the fence to let them out, and unhook at night to keep them in, and they stay very warm in there. And in the day they can run around in here, and they're completely safe. And you know, we'll put their water and their feed systems in here, and generally we keep this close to the house so we can monitor it, and it's easy to move around. And then when they're big enough, they will go into this big tractor. which might be in one of the food forests, under these big pear trees, and we let them get older here, and when they're big enough, then off they go into other chicken tractors, or they go into our electric fenced mobile chicken units. So again, everything is mobile, everything's portable, it's very low tech, and it works extremely well. Alright, so what we're going to do now is have a look at our Zone 3 chicken system. And this is what we use for our agricultural systems. It's a chicken electric chicken net chicken tractor that we move around the farm, particularly underneath all the production fruit trees, to add soil fertility and to bring about the function of pest control and weeding in these systems. And as things are, we've got just about all our mobile agricultural scale animal tractors in one place, so for convenience sake it's ideal. We can just see them all integrated here. So we are in Zone 3, and it's lucerne pasture, lucerne and mixed native clumping grasses, just coming out of winter dormancy. So we're doing all the soil preps. We've had the pigs here for a few weeks, and you can see they've put down a lot of pig poo, and it's kept them fat and healthy, and we've moved them along into their next stage in their rotation. And you can see the one is very full and fat, lying next to their hook, and we have another one busy eating away. And at this time of year, the pigs are on pasture because there's not much fruit coming off the trees, but as we get into summer they start to move into the orchard food forest systems. We've got our Nguni cattle busy eating off the winter pasture, winter lucerne. And once they're finished here, we'll start irrigating, and the summer lucerne will come up. And so they are in a 2-strand mobile electric fence, much like the pigs, and they do all the land preps that we need. You don't have to come in here and brush cut or use tractor pulled mowers. The cows do it, and they poo into the system, and it adds fertility and microorganisms. But we're really here to have a look at the chickens. So these chickens are busy moving along the swale. Okay, so they were here a few weeks ago, just on my left, and you can see where they foraged along the root zone of our apple trees on the swale. And from here they went in over there around the pomegranates and on the road edge, and apples on the swale, and they just mowed it down, and they've just loaded it with chicken shit, and it's ready for summer now. We don't have to bring them back here until the end of summer. The trees have got what they need, and so now they're in their 3rd station. So it just moves along, and then when they're finished here, we're going to run them along that swale, and they're going to spend the next few months moving along all the swales on the farm that have fruit trees, all the contours that have fruit trees, to provide for summer fertility needs. And so this system is very simple. Again, it's a electric chicken netting, so it's got quite a fine resolution, so they can't get out. And this can be set up in a variety of patterns depending on what part of the farm they're in. And so here we've got them set up around the end of the swale, and there's a compact unit on the trailer of an energizer battery, and the panel sits on the roof to provide the power. And then there's a chicken drinker hanging off the roof that's connected to one of our water points nearby. So wherever you go on this farm, there's always water points to connect them up. So I don't want to get a shock. I want to climb in and have a look. So I'm just going to deactivate this by putting it onto one of the non-active wires of the net, and then we'll climb over. Okay, so this can be run on pasture. It depends what your production goal is. And so these are now more our younger chickens who are not really at a breeding, or they're not broody. So we've raised them up over winter, and they're just starting to lay. We've got 2 roosters with them, and they spend their time out on pasture. If any of them start getting broody, then we take them out and put them into the breeding system that we looked at the start. And so you can open the back. There's a laying box here. You can open it up, and they've laid some eggs this morning, so it's nice and accessible from the back. And it's just an old trailer we bought. Unroadworthy trailer, cost virtually nothing. It was very, very cheap, and we converted it into this mobile chicken system. So there's a door around the back, and there's some perches. There are quite a few of them are in here because it's getting quite hot. They can also go underneath and shelter, and there's enough perching space for 30 chickens. And then I come in every evening and just close the door and lock them in so that they're safe. But generally there's not much that's going to get through the electric fence. And we never lose chickens to predators if we have the fence on, and we close the door every night. You've got to be careful when you're setting these up that there's no trees overhanging the fence so things can climb in. You've got to cut branches away, so there's a bit of a fall, so things that jump in can't get back out again. And when we need to move, we just hook this back onto the back of our pickup truck, our bakkie, or the tractor, and we move it to the next place. Or we even just push it by hand. It's not very heavy. And we're going to build another one now as our chicken numbers are increasing, and so we'll have 2 of these moving around the farm in the zone 3s. And we also tow them up to the fruit forests once the fruit forests start producing fruit, and then they spend the summer under the fruit trees eating fallen fruit and providing fertility and weed and pest management. So it's a really, really simple, elegant system, and it's very dynamic. It has lots of different applications around the farm and the different farm systems, and it provides a lot of the chickens' needs. So when they're out here, they're getting so much protein from the pasture and from the insects and seeds that they're eating that they don't really need to be fed anything other than a handful of grain each day. And that's the only feed we bring onto this farm. All the other animals on the farm feed from within the farming system, but we don't have the capacity to grow grain for them. And I know there are a variety of other ways of providing a high protein to chickens. We just haven't had the time to get around to it. But as we go on, we move from pattern into detail. We get into more details. We can set up more connections between the chickens and the rest of the system. So animal tractors really are the way to go in terms of management in permaculture systems. And we'll have a look at the different animal tractors in separate videos. We'll have a look at how our cattle work on the farm and our pigs, but we'll have a look at the pigs when we're in full season and the pigs are recycling loads of unwanted fallen fruit, and we can have a better look at the role they play. So the advantage is that there's no permanent infrastructure, it's all mobile, and that makes it very easy to get the animals around the farm and ensure that they're contained and well managed. We don't have to spend money on expensive fencing, and we can use the animals where they work best for themselves and the farm. Okay, thanks for watching.